day 11. About to head in for legs. Had a complete rest day yesterday. Said I was going to take an active rest day, but ended up actively resting pretty hard and just didn't go to the gym. It was constricted hours because of the holiday. Whatever. I've been reading into, Mike Menser, Dorian Yates, even Jeff Cavalier with Athlean X. There's the in the high intensity training program module, there's this idea that you should go as hard as possible in a minuscule amount of sets and maximize the amount of recovery time in between those very intense sets that you try to push beyond failure. Mike Menser obviously is not necessarily the pioneer, but he made this idea very popular of one set to failure, pushing far beyond failure when you're working out, such that if you were to continue to work out in that way, you would be hurting yourself. Basically, you'd be overtraining because you're going so hard on that one set, on those few sets that you're doing, that all the fuel in the tank's being burned out right then and there. See, I'd started out in the gym doing pyramid sets, which I'd stuck to for a long time, and I started out really trying to push to failure on each of the sets, but I found myself kind of just picking the weight up, putting the weight back down after 12 reps, after 8 reps, after 6 reps, after 2 reps, whatever. I wouldn't really push myself to and beyond failure because I would think, oh, well, I have, 4 more exercises. I have 12 more sets to do. I'm not going to worry about the fact that I didn't necessarily get the greatest burn or the greatest squeeze on this one. So what I'm trying to say is quality over quantity. And I'm going to try and practice that in the gym a lot more. I've heard that people who are advanced lifters, not to say that there's not a lot that I could advance on, but people who have already made their newbie gains, apparently this high intensity training helps with being able to put on more muscle. So we'll try it out. Another thing I'm sure you can tell we're trying out is editing, which is tougher than I thought. I didn't think it was the easiest thing in the world, but I've been up all night, certain nights, just trying to edit 15 seconds of a video together, and it doesn't even look that good. So I don't know. They haven't even performed as well as some of the videos that I did, pretty much no editing at all. So I thought I knew what I should do to try to make things better, but obviously I'm still figuring things out. So bear with me. That being said, let's head into the gym. Let's hit some legs. Probably going to be more belt squats if they're not taken. It's pretty crowded, it seems like. I don't know. We'll have to bounce around, which I have no problem with. I think that intensity is a lot more important than careful calculation when it comes to something like a workout, which I'll talk about when we get back in here. But let's stop talking about it and go be about it, and jump right into these first working sets. All right, leg day done. Can't lie, that was not the best one. If it's if we're going by progression, I definitely thought that last week's leg day was better than this week's. But the way that I'm gauging that is just based off of how well I did the belt squats and those straight-legged deadlifts at the start. Today, those belt squats were feeling heavy, heavy, heavy. There was a guy who was vying for the machine. So I rushed through my sets, which is, you don't want that, but that definitely put a damper on things. Definitely felt like I made up for it with the extensions and everything else, I guess. I definitely feel more pumped up than I did last week, but I'm definitely disappointed. That being said, let's just embarrass ourselves real quick for a couple minutes or seconds and then head on out of here. My quads definitely feel pretty fried right now. You know, I had mentioned previously that my legs at the very start of my fitness journey were a strong suit. Now they are certainly lacking. But I mean, if it comes down to it, and I really start to take things more seriously, especially when it comes to recovery, you know, making sure that I get my macros in, that I get my rest in, that I get my hydration. I definitely think that we could turn these into something freaky. And I'd said before, spooky season's only around the corner, so 'tis the season. I think that I'd mentioned intensity, super important. I could have continued to go through like fluff volume sets where I'm like, you know, doing calves and I got 12 reps, but I could push further, but I stop at 12. You're never going to see, unless you're a newbie, you're never going to see growth just kind of just doing whatever. You know what I mean? You really got to challenge yourself. Granted, if you have injuries, there are things that are holding you back. Obviously, there are things you're going to have to work around. But for those of us that are lucky enough to be able to push it in the gym, if you're not, I mean, you're wasting a gift. All right, I think we've wasted enough time here. Let's get out of here. All right, day 11 in the books. I'd mentioned that legs felt pretty crappy. I feel like I was missing a lot of strength, especially at the beginning. And, you know, I was able to go pretty hard on extensions or whatever, but I'd really not gotten much done on those belt squats. And I felt like I tweaked my back a little bit doing one of the reps on 3 plates. If you ever had a muscle spasm before, I've had a couple back spasms. I think the first one I had, I was like 16 or 17 playing lacrosse. I got like, you know, whatever happened, my back spasmed and it stays permanently contracted until you can, whether it's like massaging it out or I've done electro stim therapy, ice, heat, whatever. Hopefully it just goes away. Usually if I stretch through lighter weight exercises, the pain kind of dissipates and the muscle's able to like stretch back out. But it's something I'm gonna have to work around. If I continue to try to push as hard as I can, I'm just gonna tweak my back so bad that I'm gonna take myself out of commission for a little while. So unfortunately, the lifts might be seeing a little bit of a hit. I'm still natural as of today, so my body doesn't regenerate, you know what I mean? I'm going to have to take care of it. We got to make sure the recovery is going as well as the exercises are. I feel like a part of the reason why the exercises might have not gone so good today, in my opinion, it's probably because of how my recovery went. This kind of ties into what I was going to talk about with skillful intensity, skillful aggression versus careful calculation. The reason I mentioned skillful aggression or skillful intensity over careful calculation is when you hear a lot about the whole ego lifting versus science-based lifting arguments, what people are really talking about is intensity of your workout versus careful calculations of the programming. And that's where the ego versus the science comes into it. I was looking into the Cannonball Run, which fascinates me. It's an illegal race starting in New York City going all the way to California, and the record right now is like just about a day. The record started back when cars were invented, but it slowly people have been beating the record hour by hour. And now it's gotten to the point where the amount of research, the amount of planning, the amount of calculation you have to do even to be able to have a chance at the record right now is ridiculous. The reason I bring this up is one of the record holders of the Steel Ball Run, who had held the record for a long time, part of the reason that they were able to accomplish it was there were two drivers switching back and forth, right? One of them had everything planned out and was very meticulous about the plan. The other guy didn't really care so much for all of the plans that this guy had, all the spreadsheets and all of the math and calculations. He was more so worried about, just focusing on the driving as fast as he could and doing the best that he could behind the wheel, playing it as it rolls, rolling with the punches and seeing how things go. I think when it comes to something like the gym, a lot of us might walk in like, I'm going to do 4 sets of flat bench aiming for 8 to 12 reps. Then I will be doing pec deck flies from this weight to this weight for this many reps, which is fine, especially for people who are just starting out. It's much better than nothing. But you want to be approaching every set of every exercise, especially if you're somebody who's plateaued, with as much intensity as you can. What a lot of people are saying is the science-based aspect of your lifting will mean nothing if you don't approach it with the absolute intensity that somebody who, when you see them ego lifting and they're pushing with heavier weights than they could actually handle, that's where the intensity part of that comes in. So I honestly think that there's probably a few of you out there who don't already know that. But if you didn't, then there's a little news for you, I guess. It's not necessarily ego lifting. Ego lifting's actually a bad thing if you didn't know. You don't have to take it from me, though. I'm not really big enough to assert these types of points, but there are plenty of guys that are way bigger than me that are talking about the same stuff. So feel free to find out yourself also. I think that's the best litmus test of any of these things that anybody on the internet is saying, is seeing whether or not it works for you. One other thing that I wanted to talk about is cardio. A lot of people don't want to hear it. A lot of people don't want to talk about it, but it's good for you, man. It's good for you. I've been skipping out on cardio probably as much as I've been doing cardio. So I've really only like 3-4 days a week of cardio this past week or so. And I've been feeling down. I'm somebody who struggles with things like depression and anxiety anyways, but when I'm doing my cardio, especially on the days that I had gone hard and done intense cardio, I'm able to spend the rest of the day feeling a little lighter on my feet. The weight of the world kind of comes off of my shoulders a little bit. It's probably just because of the fact that you're tiring yourself out, but humans have evolved to be able to do extraordinary things physically. I mean, we had to chase after our sources of food for thousands and thousands of years. And it's only really recently that we've lived such sedentary lifestyles. To say that there's nothing wrong with not exercising is doing a disservice to your human nature. Physically speaking, your body greatly desires to move around in such a way that you're nearing exhaustion on an almost daily basis. So long as you're getting your recovery all worked out, then the human body is meant to push its own limits. I'm not telling anybody to hurt themselves, but I think you can tell what I'm talking about here. So yeah, do your cardio. I haven't been doing mine, and it's been making me feel way worse, so I'm starting back up tomorrow for sure. The only reason I didn't do it today was because legs, if you do legs intensely enough, the cardio, there's arguments back and forth, but the cardio is so brutal that it kind of takes away, well, not that it takes away, but you've already crushed your legs, so you're not going to get a solid enough cardio session. You could argue that it messes with recovery. I'm not going to get too into that, but it all comes down to you. You could be listening to this right now. You could be watching all the big guys, right? Watching all the Sam Suliks, the Greg Doucettes, the more plates, more dates. But it's all going to come down to you. It's going to come down to your decisions, your internal motivation, and your call to action, your maintenance of discipline. It's all going to come down to you, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to force you into the gym. When you're in the gym, nobody's going to force you to go as hard as possible. That being said, if you have access to a gym partner, somebody who shares your mindset and is willing to help you push yourself, so long as you're willing to push them, that's one of the greatest assets in the gym. I train myself, and I'm somebody who is probably in need of a partner, especially when it comes to lifts where you need help getting started out and set up or whatever. There are pros to working out alone, but I don't know. When it's all said and done, a lot of people only see the finished product. They see what you have become, and they look and they say, oh, you're so lucky, oh, this or that. They don't see the work that you put in because people aren't there every single day. They're not telling you to do the things that you're doing. And if you're not posting about it for the world to see every single day, then the work's only going to show for itself through the results. And once those results come through, you have the pride of knowing that that was an accomplishment that you achieved through your own motivation and discipline. So hold your head up high. If we can improve in just one way, in just a small increment every day, then eventually you'll become 10 times better, 100 times better. Who knows? But most people aren't willing to do it. So where were you today? Were you at the gym? I hope so. If you were watching this, if you liked the video, go ahead and like it. If you didn't like it, dislike it, go ahead and leave a comment and tell me why you liked it or didn't like it. I'm really trying to figure out what I want to do with these videos. I'm going to try more editing, but as much work as it is, I'm not seeing the returns on views. Maybe I shouldn't say that just yet. I'm going to have to see how things work. Everything's really new, obviously, and I'm trying to improve things based off of the data I'm receiving. It's all, I don't know. I'll figure it out, or I won't, but either way, we're going to continue doing this. So we'll be back here tomorrow for chest, maybe some abs, and some cardio. Until then, stay cool.